Welcome to the RFP Success Show with host Lisa Rehurek, the #1 sought-after authority on RFP success. Each week, we bring you information, strategies, or resources to help you win more business through RFPs and have a little fun doing it. Let's get this week's episode started.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the RFP Success Show. I am your host, Lisa Rehurek, founder and CEO of the RFP Success Company. And we are doing a solo broadcast today to talk to you about some of the things that you can do to maximize your working remotely. Now, I fully understand that many of you might already work remotely. You've got this all down, but we're in an unprecedented time where a lot more people are having to work from home. And I know it took me a while to get used to working from home. And it's also different because a lot of you have kids that are also now at home and you're having to juggle that. And you're having to figure out how to work with teams when working from home. So thought that we do just a little broadcast here on some key tips, just some strategies and tips that you can put into place when working from home so that you can be most productive, but also just some little tips and tricks of things that you can do to get your kids to be quiet or stay motivated, things like that. So that's what we're talking about today. The first kind of area that I wanted to cover is client communication, because when we work from home, sometimes we've got distractions. Sometimes our Wi-Fi is not as strong. And if you've got to be on the phone with clients, you've got to help to minimize that as much as possible. So if you're not used to working from home, I strongly suggest that you take some time to identify any dead spots of Wi-Fi in your house. So certainly, if it's just a phone call, that's easier. But if you're working on anything like Zoom or GoToMeeting or anything that requires video or an internet connection, it's really important to understand where your dead spots might be. So hopefully you already know those. If you don't know those, I would strongly suggest you testing a few different rooms in your house where you would work with maybe a coworker, hop on a Zoom call, something where you've got video so that you can make sure that everything's working okay. That's one of the things that I know from myself. I learned the hard way because I had a couple of dead spots in my house. I know a lot of people that I know have dead spots in their house, so make sure that you're aware of those. The other thing is that let clients know that you're working from home and that you apologize in advance for any background noise, any children, any dogs. You still want to work to minimize that, but everybody understands right now, right? Everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's got kids home from an extended vacation. Everybody is balancing this. And so it's just common courtesy to state it up front. So they just appreciate that. And they'll probably laugh and say, yeah, me too. But it's just professional. It's common courtesy. As I said, always best to eliminate or minimize background noise where you can. Dogs barking. I have 2 big dogs, and I put them in a room completely on the other side of the house when I'm on a client call or when I'm recording podcasts or anything like that, where I'm not comfortable having them out and they could bark at anybody walking by the house. So and if you can do that, to have them far away. As far as kids go, obviously that's going to depend on the age of your kids. One of the things that we always recommend is finding a place where you can put a note on a door and say, you know what, I am at work. Sit down with your kids and explain to them when that sign is up. This means that I am at work and you can't interrupt me. And that's something that they're probably going to have to get used to. Obviously, if you have toddlers, that approach is not going to work. If you have a spouse at home, hopefully you all can play tag team and one of you watches the kids while the other one takes client calls and vice versa. You're going to have to work that out because the productivity piece is going to be really hard, particularly for those of you who have toddlers at home where you can't necessarily just talk to them and tell them to be quiet or, have them do something else. You do have to watch them. So hopefully if you and a spouse can tag team on that, that would be ideal. If you can't rid yourself completely of background noise, keep yourself on mute as much as possible. Now, you've got to be really active and present when you've got yourself on mute. And I always honestly just keep my finger on the mouse, ready to unmute myself at any time when I'm going to talk. But put yourself on mute and only unmute yourself when you are contributing or when you are talking. Honestly, the other great thing As somebody who hosts meetings all the time, I love it when people do that, because as soon as they come off of mute, I know that they're ready to say something, and it helps me better facilitate that meeting. So that's a really great way to make that all work as well. We've already talked about being aware of any dead and weak Wi-Fi spots in your home, so making sure you're doing that as well. So let's now talk about some productivity best practices. I know that there is a lot of talk right now about this being like a 2-week thing. We're all self-quarantined for 2 weeks. Frankly, I think it's going to be a lot longer than that. I do think even corporations are going to say, hey, we want to be better safe than sorry. So everybody's going to kind of wait until we know a little bit more about how many cases there really are and what's going to happen going forward. So I would guess that it's going to last a little bit longer than 2 weeks. And as such, you need to have a designated workspace in your home. It's going to be really hard if you are trying to work at the dining room table, for example. Number one, it's going to be hard to close that space off and put the sign on the door like I suggested a little bit ago. But it's also going to be really hard. Every time you eat, you've got to clear off the table. Find a designated workspace that can be your own. And I got to tell you, there's so many easy things to do, even if you don't have a desk. You can get a piece of plywood and put it on bricks. I mean, and I'm saying that only because I know people are like, oh my God, I don't want to go out and spend a ton of money. No, you don't have to. If you've got like a folding cardboard table or anything like that. I actually was talking to somebody a couple of days ago, and they're an artist and they have these really huge, large canvases. And they just put one of those on a couple of TV trays. I don't know, I might be aging myself with TV trays, but they had them, those TV trays, and then they just put it across there and they made a makeshift desk. So you can make a makeshift desk, but set up a designated workspace where you can really work comfortably, free of distractions, where you can put up that sign that says I'm at work so you can close the doors off. That's going to be really helpful. It's also going to be really helpful for you to be able to set up your computer and all of that in one place and not have to continuously move it. Another tip that people say, I'm going to tell you right now, to be honest with you, I don't do this, but one of the tips that people say is to dress the part. Like get up in the morning, shower, brush your teeth, get dressed, get ready, and don't just hang out in your sweats or your yoga pants. Well, I'm guilty of that. I do get up and wash my face and brush my teeth, but I don't always put makeup on or completely do my hair. I love being able to be in yoga pants, so I'm generally in yoga pants. So it really depends. You've kind of got to know yourself, right? What works for you? Does it make you feel less motivated if you're in yoga pants? Does it make you feel more sluggish? For me, it doesn't matter. I can be productive through anything. So that doesn't affect me. You've got to know yourself, what affects you, what doesn't affect you, and make that work for you. And that kind of goes into my next tip, is that you really have to understand how you work best. It is really easy when we're at home to get distracted. Oh, you know what? I just heard my doorbell ring. That means I've got a package. Let me stop and go open the package. And then you open the package and it's something that you need to do something with. So you go do that. And then you're in the laundry room and you think, oh, I should do a load of laundry. Not that any of that is a bad thing, but you don't want to get so distracted. When I first started working from home, one of my rules was, I have to finish a complete task. I need to finish this task. I also told myself that, I can get up every hour. I should get up every hour, because when you work from home, it's also really easy to sit your butt down and not get up for 3 or 4 hours because let me just finish this one thing. When you're in an office environment, there's a lot more movement, there's a lot more activity. And so you're more likely to get up and move around. So there's a balance there between, sitting down and making sure that you're finishing a task and not getting too distracted, but also making sure that you're getting up and moving around more, because it can get really hard when you're at home. You can really kind of get into that rut of just sitting a lot. Increase communication. Now you're working from home. For those of you who really work in an office most of the time, now all of a sudden you don't have the same interaction with other people. You don't have the same communication. You can't just holler over the cube wall at somebody, or you can't just chit chat with somebody that's walking by. For those of you who have chat functions, hopefully those are still working. We have a remote office space that is doing a really great job in making sure that we still have communication methods. Slack, if you're not familiar with, Slack is a really good place for you to be able to have kind of a common ground for people to be talking to each other. Think of it as a digital water cooler, if you will. And you can set up a team chat in there. If you use Microsoft products, they've got Microsoft Teams, and there's chat functions in that. If you don't have something like that set up already and you work with a team, I strongly encourage you to do that. For those of you who are dealing with proposals, it would be really great to set up a Slack channel for the particular proposal you're working on. You're not going to be able to just get up and walk to somebody's office and quickly ask them a question, but you might be able to quickly chat with them on Slack. So think about different ways. One of the things you should do also is take a little bit of an inventory of how you communicate when you're in the office. What are the types of things that you're communicating about that you're doing in person when you're in the office? And then what is that substitute that you can put into place now that you're at home? You still got to get things done. You're working on proposals. There's still a deadline. Now, maybe they're extending deadlines a lot more. Maybe the proposals are slowing down. Either way, you still need to make sure that communication is still free-flowing and that you don't cut it off completely. Okay. The other thing that I would say for any of you who are seeing that RFPs are slowing down, if anybody's freaking out about their jobs, obviously I don't know what's going to happen with government contracting or corporate contracting. My guess is that it's going to slow down a little bit, but that's a great opportunity for all of those things that we talk about that we can't get done because we have too many proposals on our plate, right? What library content do you need to renew? What training do you need to take? I mean, I will tell you that we've got a really great Success Institute where you have on-demand training classes. This is probably a great time for those of you that are already members. You can get in there and start taking more classes. For those of you who are not members, you can get in there. If we start seeing a big surge in activity, we'll start adding more courses and other places where you can get training. But take training. Again, revive that library content. Do some data crunching if you don't do that already, like where are your wins, where are your losses? Maybe look at some of your past proposals. Do a review to see what you can be doing better. Are there any processes or templates or anything like that that you need to revisit that you should be looking at? So there's plenty to do, especially in the proposal space, because even if everything else slows down, these are all the things that we generally think there's not enough time to do. Now you've got the time, possibly. So take that opportunity to get them done. The other thing that I would say about working from home is it can get a little bit easy to, I find people swing really far one way or the other on their health. So again, it can be really easy to fall into a trap of sitting too long, of ordering in, of eating, crappy, of not taking your health too seriously. Sherry, who is part of our team here at the RFP Success Company, she has a lot of background in the fitness and health industry, and she says, hey, we've got commute time that has disappeared. So instead of eating up that commute time with work or with nothing, why don't you use that as an opportunity to go out and take a walk or go to the gym? Or I think gyms are probably all closing right now too. So just take some time to go for a walk or go for a run or play in the yard with your kids or your dogs and just get some exercise. So those are just some of the tips that we wanted to share with you today. I always love it when people come out to our Facebook page or our LinkedIn group and tell us about how they're using these tips, or what tips do you have that we didn't cover here, because you all are living this right now as well. So we'd love to hear your tips and strategies as well. So thanks for being here. I mentioned a little while ago the Success Institute, our training platform, online on demand. You can go to the rfpsuccessinstitute.com to learn more about that and come on board with us if you're interested in using this time to get more training. Thanks for being here, and we will see you again on the next one.
You have been listening to the RFP Success Show with RFP expert Lisa Rehurek, author of the RFP Success book. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, make sure you click the subscribe button so you don't miss a show. And thanks for spending time with us today.